All right, you want to skip the fluff and dive right into the interesting stuff? Perfect, that's what we do. Today we're looking at a clash of screen titans, really. Imagine Bolo Yeung from Bloodsport facing off against Dolph Lundgren as Ivan Drago in a real fight.
Yeah, it's a classic fan debate, isn't it? But we've actually got some analysis to work with here. It's from a source called Scianioe, which basically translates to the attached text. It breaks down this specific matchup.
Okay.
So our mission basically is to pull out the key points on strengths, weaknesses, and figure out who this source thinks would actually win, realistically.
Love it. Okay, let's kick off with Bolo Yeung. The source really plays up that, that villain vibe we all remember, that coiled intensity.
It does. Physically, it calls him a physical juggernaut, which fits. But also notes his brutal speed and, interestingly, unmatched agility for his size.
That combination sounds deadly. A juggernaut with agility.
It does. And you have to factor in his background, right? Decades of martial arts training, traditional Chinese styles, plus the bodybuilding, it all feeds into that explosiveness.
Right, the source mentions explosiveness and vicious strikes, makes him terrifying in close quarters.
Exactly. But it also kind of frames his style as maybe more theatrical, relying on that intimidation and those short bursts of aggression.
So maybe good for landing early damage, like the source says, but what about a longer fight? Does that theatrical style have the stamina?
That's the implication, I think. It suggests his best shot is that initial overwhelming force, those short, vicious bursts you mentioned.
Okay, potential for a quick knockout from Bolo. Got it. So let's pivot to Ivan Drago, or, Dolph Lundgren playing him.
The powerhouse, as the source puts it. And you can't ignore the size difference. Lundgren's what, 6'5"?
Huge reach advantage right there. But the source says it's not just about size.
No, absolutely not. It highlights his background, which is pretty diverse. He was a European karate champion, sure, but also a chemical engineer.
A chemical engineer, it's unexpected, suggests a brain behind the brawn?
That's the idea. Disciplined, strategic thinking. His martial arts base is Kyokushin karate, known for being very direct, very powerful, no wasted motion.
So less flashy than Bolo, maybe.
Definitely seems that way. The source describes his approach as more strategic and efficient, using his long reach, his sheer power. He wants to fight at range.
Interesting contrast. Bolo wants in close and fast. Drago wants distance and strategy.
Right, and the source also brings up Dolph's ability to absorb damage and, crucially, adapt under pressure. That hints at resilience.
Okay, but could Bolo just overwhelm that, land those devastating shots before Drago even gets his strategy going? That initial onslaught sounds intense.
It's a definite possibility. The source acknowledges that Bolo could absolutely score some early hits, make it dangerous. But the overall argument leans towards Dolph. It suggests his endurance, precision, and tactical mind would ultimately win the war of attrition.
Ah, the war of attrition. So if it goes beyond those first few explosive moments.
Exactly. If it becomes a longer fight, the source believes Dolph's disciplined training, his reach, his ability to take a hit and rethink. That would be the deciding factor.
So pulling it all together, the final verdict from Xiao Saye is?
Pretty clear, actually. It says, in a real fight, not just on screen, the edge goes to the Swede. Dolph Lundgren takes the win.
Wow. Okay. So the theatrical aggression loses out to strategic power and endurance in this analysis.
That's the takeaway here, that explosive start versus the long game. It really makes you think about how different strengths play out, doesn't it? Not just infighting, but, any competitive situation.
It really does. That initial flash isn't always everything. Sometimes it's about staying power and being able to adapt.
Precisely. The ability to weather the storm and stick to your plan, or adjust it as needed.
Fascinating stuff. So, a question for everyone listening then. Thinking about this kind of analysis, what other fictional fights, ones that seem maybe mismatched on the surface, might give us a surprising result if we really broke down their actual abilities beyond just the movie magic? What other matchups deserve this kind of deep dive?